Tonight, we are learning more about Boar's Head facility linked to a deadly Listeria outbreak. Over the last year, USDA officials logged 69 examples of noncompliance at the plant in Virginia. Inspectors say they found mold, insects, puddles of blood at this plant. At least 9 people have died from this. 57 have also been hospitalized in various states. Operations at the Virginia plant are now on hold. Boar's Head recalled 7 million pounds of deli meat last month. So let's bring out our 9 News medical expert, Dr. Kohli. I mean, obviously, this is concerning to think so many people have died from this, and the conditions at that plant is terrifying.
Very concerning, but it's not a new disease. So Listeria is a bacteria most commonly spread by contaminated food, found in soils, found in animal feces. But even touching contaminated food, for example, if a piece of meat is contaminated, you touch it with your produce or your groceries, you can actually spread Listeria that way. And it really is a food poisoning that's extremely severe. So I'm talking nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, but even fevers, muscle aches, and chills. And it can spread to your bloodstream. If you're a pregnant woman who gets infected with Listeria, you could not only lose the baby, you could actually pass the infection to the baby. So miscarriages and pregnancy complications are common.
Obviously, the description of the plant gets your attention, and it makes you wonder, though, when you describe Listeria, in some ways, should it actually be more common, or do they do enough to make sure that it never does reach the food line?
Well, I think food safety, Tom, is something we don't talk about enough. We sort of assume that the food that we get from a grocery store is safe,
right,
and that's not always the case. But even handling of the food afterwards is something we have to think about. So here we're talking about deli meats, and deli meats are common in terms of targets for Listeria. And in fact, hot dogs, for example, which are already cooked, right? And people don't heat them up enough. You can even get Listeria to thrive in that. And that's because Listeria is a very hardy bacteria. Even in the fridge, it can divide and replicate. So
with cold cuts, it's going to be more common. But with a hot dog, you have one more line of defense in how you cook it.
That's exactly right. And same goes for a lot of the other products. So for example, our produce or our salads, we often think if something has a peel on it, we're going to take the peel off. Like an apple, we don't need to worry about it. But the recommendation is still to wash it very thoroughly because it can get very easily contaminated. Cantaloupes, melons, those pre-cut fruits that you often buy, those pre-made salads, all the perfect foods that we would eat on a Labor Day picnic, in fact.
Totally. So, I mean, that's the question, right? I was like going to plan my little fancy charcuterie for the weekend. What do I need to know as I'm literally going to the store and picking out what I want to make my fancy charcuterie?
Yes, so lots of things. First, if it's Boar's Head and it's under recall, you want to make sure that none of that deli meat is coming from that particular manufacturer. Okay. Second, raw cheeses, raw milk, unpasteurized products are very high risk for Listeria. So if anyone pregnant is coming to your party, you don't serve them that charcuterie at any point. You want to make sure you don't prepare anything more than a day before. And for raw food or deli meats, I would say more than an hour before the time is right. So keep everything in the fridge until the very last minute. Some people even say when you're bringing home the food from the store, you want to keep your meats in a separate bag. Then you keep your other products because that reduces the risk of contamination, especially with the raw meats. And use utensils and cutting boards and such that are separate. Make sure you wash your hands and wipe down those surfaces.
Well, I won't be eating this weekend.
But a hot dog, don't you crave a hot dog?
Burn that thing.
It's got a char on the outside.
Got to burn that thing.
That's right.
Hey, let's talk about other stuff outdoors. People, hopefully the weather's going to be sensational enjoying Labor Day weekend, but mosquito-borne illnesses certainly come top of mind here in Colorado especially.
It's been a real issue this year. We've had many different West Nile virus. Dr. Fauci had it, was in the hospital with it. Eastern equine encephalitis, and then another one coming out of Cuba that's called sloth fever, all mosquito-borne illnesses. So
is all we do prevent it, or can we, or once we get it, do we have to know that we have it quickly?
So the good thing is most adults will be asymptomatic, but a few can progress to severe disease. So I would say prevention is really the key here. And you got to wear that insect repellent, especially if your picnic or your outdoor party is near some sort of standing body of water, like a lake,
right,
or a pond or anything, because that attracts the mosquitoes. I love taking a walk at dusk in the summertime, but that is when the mosquitoes bite. They're dawn and dusk, so you want to try to avoid those hours. If you don't like the insect repellents with DEET, you can use lemon eucalyptus oil. That's also a natural mosquito repellent. Just don't use it on kids under 3, and make sure to cover up those sleeves. Just do your best to not get bitten.
When will you know that you don't just have a bug bite? that you don't just have an itch, that you're sick.
And so for many of these, it can take a few weeks for symptoms to manifest, but these are severe flu-like symptoms that can occur. So if you've spent some time outdoors and within 5 to 7 days, roughly, you start to have any kind of severe flu-like symptoms, you may want to go and get tested. Unfortunately, no treatments. Most of us will be okay. But again, for those of us where it spreads to the nervous system, the brain and the spinal cord, the consequences can be severe.
Well, happy Labor Day, everybody.
I know. Well, the end of summer, I feel like the next time we talk to you, it'll be COVID shots and flu shots and getting ready for fall.
Yeah, not too far away from that.
That's right. All right, Dr. Kohli, as always, thanks for being here. And don't forget, you can find more with Dr. Kohli at 9news.com/Dr. Kohli.